What's up, Stitt-Heads? We're gonna get a little weird today, man. Had to move an episode forward a week, and I'm glad it worked out this way because everybody's snowed in with the snowpocalypse. The day after tomorrow, we're living through the snow. Don't forget your milk, bread, and eggs, and all the fun stuff. Anywho, so I got natty daddies today because I figured, man, if we're gonna get hunkered down, I gotta get a little stronger with it. So, gonna get weird. We're bringing Jonathan back from used to be with Cult of Conspiracy, which is how I found him, and he's also with Meta Mystics, which is his other show that I guess he's taken on, kind of like that's his new full-on passion project. Great, awesome dude, deep researcher, funny as hell. I love talking to this guy, and I've loved listening to this guy for years before finally getting to be on his show a few months back. So anyways, welcome to Talking Stitt.
Hey, dude,
Jonathan, how you
happy to
doing,
be
buddy?
here. Great, great. Yeah, very excited for this. We had actually planned on doing it next weekend, and you were like, "Well, we might get interrupted, we might not," and so you asked if we could do it today. And because of all the bad weather, I live in Texas, so it's freezing as like super cold outside. So I normally make the trip out to Louisiana every other week. But I couldn't make that trip, so here we are. We got time to burn and shit to talk about.
I love it. It worked out great. Yeah, dude, my kids, it's funny. It's like this morning it was like 8 degrees for the temperature here, and I live in Mulgee, Oklahoma. So just a state above you. But so it was like 8 degrees regular temp, and it was like -1 outside. And my kids, my boys, my daughter, the oldest, she's gonna be 12 soon, but she was like, I don't want to go outside. The boys are like, let's go outside, let's go outside. So it takes us 25 minutes to get them all bundled up, looking like a Christmas story. They can't even move their arms and shit. Get outside for 5 minutes. They're like, it's cold. We're ready to go. And I'm like, you little buttholes. But
You
yeah,
just
dude.
got to run around a little bit in it, you know?
Exactly. They
Did
did. They
y'all?
threw some snowballs and stuff, but they were over it pretty quick.
Oh, y'all got some snow. That's awesome, dude. Yeah, you got to, toss around the football or, throw a little water on the driveway and get a little ice hockey going or something, you know?
Right. I get to go test out my new Tacoma or Tundra's four-wheel drive today in the snow. So I was like, oh hell yeah, that works. Well,
Hell yeah.
dude, what kind of strange weirdness are we getting into today?
So this is actually going to be a little bit of a mix between conspiracy and some esotericism. I know that not everybody is super into that. They think that it's satanic, or they think that it's scary. It's really not scary. It's just symbolism, and all the symbolism is trying to teach you is that there are certain journeys that people go through in their life and in their spiritual life and everything. And as far as like secret societies and esotericism and all the mystical stuff, it's all trying to show you that it's all somewhat of a journey within. And that is exactly what we're going to be getting to today with the esoteric understanding of the great 1998 show, the 1998 movie, The Truman Show with Jim Carrey. Everybody's seen it, everybody loves it, and it is the best Gnostic allegorical movie of all time. It is not even close. It literally, from start to finish, it is nothing but Gnosticism. And I know what some people might say, Gnosticism is heretical, and those were the stories that were thrown out whenever Emperor Constantine got together and over at the Council of Nicaea and
Yep,
the
yep.
3 or 4 other councils that followed that, whenever they were trying to put the Bible together. But if you think about it, all of the Gnostic stories, along with the biblical canon and everything else, were all floating around during that time. You think about it, Jesus, came in at the turn of the century, right?
Hmm.
But they didn't put the Bible together until like 330 something or
Yeah.
340 something. So for more than 300 years, people were including these Gnostic texts along with the other texts of Jesus.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until then, until the Romans decided to get their hands on it. Basically, the point is that these are still some of the original biblical stories, but they give you a little bit of a different understanding into who Jesus was. And yeah, I love that. I think that it's all about, the discovering uh, the mystical journey that each individual is on, that it's not necessarily for the masses, it's for the individual. It's more personified that way. And the Truman Show does a great job about
Hmm.
talking about that, dude.
It is. It's that kind of weird, like Plato's cave allegory is what, it kind of really gets into. It goes into a lot of things because that's one of those movies that let's see, the first time I saw that weirdly was only like 6, 7 years ago. And like when I grew up, I was born in '89. I know we're probably similar in age. Um, I was born in '89, so like I grew up watching The Mask, Ace Ventura. I love the Cable Guy. That's still the Cable Guy is another weird one too. But anyway, my point is I got used to like crazy Jim Carrey. So the Truman Show, I remember seeing the commercials when I was a kid. I'm like, I don't know what this is. It doesn't look like The Mask or Liar Liar or something. I watched it 7, 8 years ago and I was like, whoa, whoa, there's a lot to this movie, man. And it really delves into everything, like bit of like Jesus aspect, and you get into some can even bring it into like a flat earth aspect with a firmament when he's, hitting the edge and like so anyways, what are your thoughts, man? Where do you want to go with this?
Well, it's all entirely allegorical. Even just the idea of the dome in the Truman Show, of which, that's what he perceives as his reality, even that is allegorical. It's not meant to be taken literally. It's a literal translation to be able to tell it in a story. At least that's from my understanding and from all of the research that I've done into Gnosticism and esotericism, that the firmament is literally about breaking through the glass ceiling of your mind, like
Mm-hmm.
to expand your thought, to go beyond what the perceived boundaries are. And that's exactly what Truman does in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
So the other day I actually sat down. I did a lot of notes and everything because I was like, all right, I feel like I've been doing this esoteric shit for quite some time now. I want to see if I can do it and mark and just point out every little detail of what is happening to Truman, and see and kind of measure it up against other deeper esoteric beliefs, and try and see what other people have thought about it. And sure enough, without even checking anything, I hit on all cylinders with it. So I feel like I got a pretty decent understanding as far
Nice.
as what was the story that was trying to be told and all of the different allegories. So that is what we're gonna do. It's a fun one. But
Let's
first,
go.
I do want to give a shout out to there's this YouTube channel out there. It's called Forbidden Gnosis, and he had a great opening theory. Well, not necessarily a theory, but I guess his thoughts on the Truman Show itself. And I kind of just want to read that, and we'll open up with that, and then we'll get into some of the notes here and everything. Okay.
Sounds good, yeah.
So he goes, they say that the Truman Show is one of the most precise Gnostic allegories ever put to film, a nearly perfect movie translation of ancient Gnostic texts discovered in Nag Hammadi that describes reality as a prison created by a false god, humanity as divine beings trapped in ignorance, an awakening that is a dangerous process seeing through the illusion and escaping toward true freedom. Every major element of this film, Christoph he's the creator, right? He
Mm-hmm.
describes himself as the
Yep.
creator. Christoph is the demiurge, according to Gnosticism. It's the false god, right? Sea Haven, which is the town that he lives in, is the material world prison. And Truman's glitches and suspicions, all the crazy things that are happening, the light falling, and he's seeing through the
Volkswagen.
elevator.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All of that. These are all gnosis beginnings. These are all these suspicions. Some people call them synchronicities, whatever you
Yeah.
want to call them. These are things that are just like little cracks in the veil that just get your mind to wander a little bit. Sylvia, actually, the girl that he's trying to get with, that is like basically prohibited from seeing him because she's not necessarily part of the show, right? But he's trying to get back to her, and she
Mm.
gets taken away. Sylvia, what she represents is the divine Sophia. So
Uh-huh.
it's the wisdom, it's the philosophy. All philosophy actually means, whenever you break it down, it's the love of wisdom. And that is what Sylvia slash Sophia actually even represents. And it's actually understood within the Gnostic understanding that before God was even created, Sophia was there to create him, which is actually really, really interesting. Don't take it as a literal thing. It is more of just there had to be wisdom before there could have been a creator kind of deal.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
another question before the question. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So Sylvia as Sophia, she's calling from beyond the dome, and Truman's final crossing of the water and ascent through the door as our souls escape from the archonic control. It maps directly onto Gnostic cosmology with such precision that it's impossible to believe that it's accidental. This is a deliberate, carefully constructed retelling of the Gnostic spiritual narrative for a modern audience. And once you understand the Gnostic framework, you can never watch the film the same way again. So just want to throw that out there. Shout out to Forbidden Gnosis YouTube channel. Highly suggest everybody goes and subscribes to that channel. I don't know him, never talked to him, but he's on fire with everything that he does. So just want to throw that out there.
You know, it makes me wonder, like, that's a fantastic way to start this because, like, there's so much to that movie that you can watch it as just a funny, entertaining thing. But if you're just like, we are all Truman in a way, you know, in a way of like, you just start seeing, like you said, these little synchronicities, these little things that pop up where you're like, hey, wait a minute. I kind of predicted that was going to happen and then that happened or whatever, you know. And it doesn't mean you have an answer. It just means you have 10 more questions to every damn question. But then, you know, I just wanted to Google, I'm like, who is the director, Peter Weir? I don't even know who the hell that guy is. Do you know anything else he might have, you know what I'm saying? Like been in Dead Poet Society,
Oh, that makes sense.
Witness, Master and Commander, a few other movies. Nothing that would really like stand out as weird as the Truman Show. So that's interesting that they would take that approach
That's
on a movie
the
with Jim Carrey as a comedy guy because that's when he kind of really started dipping his toes into dramedy or I guess comedy and drama kind of movies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And I actually I'm less concerned about the director, and I would be more interested to see who the writer is. And it
Hmm.
says actually the writer of the Truman Show is his name is Andrew Niccol, and of course. So it says that he wrote the original script of this movie, which was inspired by a Twilight Zone episode titled Special Service. So
Ooh.
I want to see what else he wrote. But yeah, I actually didn't do a lot of research into who wrote it. But I mean, it is blatantly obvious that it is a Gnostic allegory.
Yeah, yeah.
And you'll see it gets crazy, dude.
So go for
Even
it, man. What's let's start at the beginning. I mean, Truman's like, you know, what is he? I guess just an infant in the beginning, and he's just, you know, he doesn't have the knowledge yet. He's just almost a programmable robot. Like he's just doing his day-to-day duties.
dude, legit in the beginning of the movie. I mean, in the first 2 or 3 minutes of the movie, it starts all the symbolism, and it's like back to back to back to back to back. So
Mhm.
the first sign of symbolism in the movie is the neighbor's dog, which is a Dalmatian named Pluto, who is jumping on Truman outside of his front yard. Okay, there are so many different ways to take just this. And most people would just overlook it, right? Well, it's just a Dalmatian. Dalmatians are pretty aggressive. It's his neighbor's dog. Who gives a shit, right? But if you're looking into the deeper meaning behind it, there are three symbolic ways that we can look at this. The black and white colors of the Dalmatian, obviously symbolic
Duality.
of the duality of life, right? It's the way that the system keeps people under control by giving them the illusion of free will, but they themselves keep themselves self-governed with the illusion of only two choices. That's the real deeper kind of
Hmm.
aspect to it, because most people believe that they can only do this or that, right? We narrow ourselves down. It's a self-governing essentially. Um, and also the dog's name being Pluto in mythology. This is interesting. Pluto stood for Hades. So in Greek mythology, I believe Pluto or Hades is was Pluto as far as the star system and whatnot, right? And Hades is the lord of the underworld.
Uh-huh.
So he's the guardian of death, fear, and the unconscious mind. Truman hasn't woken up yet. So this
Yeah.
dog is helping him stay in the underworld, helping him keep asleep and not waking up yet. And another thing, as far as this, it's a Pavlovian fear anchoring. Have you ever heard of Pavlov's dog?
Hmm.
Okay. Pavlov is most known for his studies where he found that dogs could learn to salivate in response to a neutral stimulus, like a bell, when it was repeatedly paired with food, demonstrating how behaviors can be learned through association. Now, if you ever seen The Office, Jim trains Dwight Schrute this way.
Yeah, yeah.
with a little bell, and here's a candy, you know, and the last time he does it, Dwight just holds his hand out after he hears the bell, and Jim's like, "What do you want? What are you doing?" And he goes, Dwight's like, I don't know. I don't know why I did that. It's a subconscious training is really what
Programming.
it is.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes, it's a great programming. So it's classical conditioning. So Truman is literally being conditioned to have this fear, which keeps him from awakening to the true nature of his reality from the jump. And just moments later, the light falls from the sky onto the ground right in front of him. This is going to tie into the dog as well. So the light that falls, he's like, "What the fuck is this?" Right? And he looks at it, and it says Sirius. Right?
Ooh,
It says
yeah.
Sirius on the light. Sirius is known as the brightest star in the sky. Also, Sirius is also known as the dog star.
Yes, I
So,
knew that's what you were going to. I love it. I love this so much. Keep going. Sorry.
yeah. So in Gnosticism, the sky is known for being a false cosmology for the fake reality, of which the Hindus even call the Maya. And there's actually another term for that we're going to get to here in a second. So the Hindus call it the Maya as the false world. It's the illusion, right? But in Gnosticism, it's known as the Kanoma. And Kanoma literally translates, it literally means emptiness or deficiency, that we are creating our own false reality with our own eyes. And the material world is kind of like the illusion that our eyes are projecting. So yeah, it gets pretty damn weird.
It's almost like our own algorithm, like we only know what we know, and that's this weird, yeah, you're trapped in this own thought process of that glass ceiling, kind of like you were talking about earlier. But yeah, continue.
Oh, dude, where attention flows, energy goes. You know what I
Bingo.
mean, or vice versa. And so yeah, so this is the beginning. So the light falls, and it's the beginning of Truman sensing that something is off about the nature of his reality. Moments later, Truman is in his car, and he's listening to the radio, and the radio says that there was an aircraft flying over Sea Haven, and it began shedding parts, and luckily nobody was injured below. So he's like, okay, it's the Kanoma or the Maya or the fictional reality speaking back to him like, go back to sleep. That wasn't crazy. It was just an aircraft that was dropping parts, right? So I think that that's interesting because, and that's really the goal of the archons. If you ever heard of archons, essentially archons are they work for the demiurge. They are the ones that are trying to keep you stuck in this false reality. They're the ones that are like, don't question that. That's silly. Don't go that deep. It's not that crazy. If you hear his best friend all the time.
Yeah.
If this
that was my
reality
thought.
was fake,
yeah, that was my thought. Yeah.
if this reality was fake, then that means that I would be fake. And I grew up with you, Truman.
I love you,
How
Truman.
do
I've
that?
known you for years. Yeah, exactly.
Sheds a little tear. He's a fucking archon.
Gaslighting
okay?
his ass. Yeah.
He's gaslighting him big time. And so all right. So now next we get to his job. He sits at a desk, and his nameplate is sitting at the desk that says his full name, which is Truman Burbank. Okay. So it seems like a normal name until you start breaking into the esoteric symbolism of his name. Truman is obvious, true human, right? Or the divine spark, as Gnosticism would call it, right? But Burbank is where it starts to get really wild. It's symbolic of Burbank, California, where all of the TV studios, manufactured reality, and Hollywood in general are. Right? It's where scripted reality begins, and he's inside of it. So his last name is literally like from Hollywood. So he doesn't get that, right? It's the epicenter. So Hollywood and Burbank in general are the epicenter of produced lives, scripts, and sets. So his name, Truman Burbank, literally translates to man of the studio system.
Holy shit, that's awesome.
Right?
That's awesome.
Then comes the second time something strange happens to Truman. He's sitting by the beach contemplating his fear of water because that's where his dad allegedly died in the boat, right? And as he's sitting there, it starts raining only where he is. He moves and the rain follows him. We can look at this moment as Truman beginning to awaken. But when the rain follows him, it's his consciousness that is being tested. It's making him question the nature of this reality, right? That it's not a split-second weird one-off thing that happened in a moment that you can just write off. It's literally following him everywhere he walks. It's like the first moment of awakening where you start asking yourself, why am I noticing this? Why doesn't anyone else notice it? It's
Almost a
something
half manifestation too, because he noticed it was above him and he could step out of it. But then the moment he questioned it, it's like that's when it followed him. So it's like he almost brought it back into his reality, even though he's kind of stepping out of the manufactured reality. Dude, this is awesome. I love this.
Yeah, and dude, and what's crazy is so he does realize it, right? And then then it begins to rain everywhere. He's like he's going around, ha, 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 this is crazy, right? And then it starts to begin to rain everywhere. And that's another archonic thing. It's that he noticed the weird synchronicity. He noticed the glitch in the matrix. And the archons are just like, all right, we got to make it rain everywhere to put him back to sleep. Bang, it starts falling. It starts falling down like normal everywhere. And then that thought might stay in the back of his mind, but it's just a little chip. It's not the whole thing, right? It's just a little something to get his mind going a little bit.
But he's not far enough. That's the first coincidence. He's like, that's just a coincidence. And then you get 20 coincidences. You're like, they're not coincidences anymore. But yeah, that's the first one. He's just like, yeah, whatever.
Exactly. Yeah. So so he's back to rational thought and a return to sleep and the awake life. And this is what's interesting too. So, fear obviously is the best control mechanism to ever have been created. It literally keeps us trapped in ourselves. It turns us into a self-governing machine. You're not going to go out and do a bunch of crazy shit if you're fearful of everything. You're going to
repercussions. Yeah.
You're going to stay trapped in, you're going to hermit up and just go inward, right? And so
you say N-word. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
Oh, with an I.
Right. Not a hard R, I promise.
No R. Well, there's one R, but
I'm joking. Sorry.
So water is Truman's primary fear, right? His father's death, in quotations, because we find out later that his father never really died. His father's death is a staged trauma. The fear keeps him landlocked. He never wants to go off the island. He can't even go over the bridge, bro. He'll just start shitting his pants. He was trying to get onto a ferry in one of the shows for work. He was trying to get on the ferry, but then he looked down over the pier and saw an old sunken like pirogue or some shit, right? On the side of the dock, and it scared him and it made him go back. He couldn't even get on the ferry. So it doesn't matter if he's controlling it or somebody else is controlling it. He's scared, which is exactly what the demiurge wants. The demiurge wants him to stay right there. Christoph, otherwise known as, wants him to stay right there, absolutely landlocked, and that fear is preventing him from going anywhere. It's preventing him from going anywhere literally, but it's also preventing him from going anywhere spiritually as well, because fear is the ultimate thing that prevents transcendence. As far as Gnosticism goes. So, Gnostically, the fear, this is, if you want to get really weird, fear literally binds your soul to the material world. It binds it to matter. Because you're scared to go in. So you're going out as far as you can. Like a
shackle. Yeah, dude, an ankle shackle. It keeps you binded. Yeah, dude.
And trauma will create obedience. And so he's been obedient up until this point in his life, which I do find it interesting. He's 30 years old in the movie, which is exactly how old Jesus was whenever he was.
And then Christoph, and there's a bunch of yes, continue. Dude, I am so loving this. Thank you for surprising me with this. The Truman Show is one of my favorite movies. So the fact that like Stitt-Heads, this is literally a surprise subject that was like 5 minutes before we hit record. It was like, oh shit, let's fucking go. So dude, I'm loving every second of this. Continue.
Hey dude, I'm just trying to open up the eyes of the masses, even if it is through a movie that you've loved since you were a little kid. It's the best way, really. So the next seed of awakening happens in Truman's life as he's walking down the street and he sees his dad, who allegedly died. The Matrix is beginning to crumble. He goes and tells his mom, and then the mom tells his wife, and his wife is obviously part of the Matrix, so she's shrugging it off too. But all these tiny little seeds are starting to add up. He's going around, he's questioning the nature of his reality. He goes and tells his buddy about it, and His buddy's like, whatever. He tells his mom about it. His mom's like, oh, honey, I see him 10 times a week in my visions. I just hope and I pray that I
Mhm.
see him. And he's like, no, I saw him. I saw him. He was right there. I know
Yeah,
that I know that that's my dad, right?
physically, yes, yes.
And so it's a shock, and like those little shocking synchronicities, and then you go and try and tell somebody else, it almost pisses you off, and it makes you want to dive in even deeper to prove your point because you know that you're right, right?
Mhm.
So the next scene, it jumps to where he met Sylvia for the first time. So the Matrix is obviously trying to push the narrative that he's scripted to be with this clumsy cheerleader named Meryl. But he's fascinated with Sylvia. He locks eyes with her like crazy. And there's a bunch of times where he's trying to, so he sees her in the park. And but then the cheerleader, which is eventually becomes his wife, is trying to take his attention away from her. Then they go to like a high school dance or something like that, and he sees Sylvia dancing over there, and he can't get to her, right? And even the guards come and take her off over there. Then he finally sees her the last time in the library. So in the which is very interesting because now he's literally speaking to Sophia in the library.
Some
Speaking to
Akashic
knowledge,
records or some shit almost. Yeah, dude.
speaking to wisdom and knowledge and the Akashic records, all of that shit in the library. The one thing that is designed to wake him up and pull him out of the Matrix. I just thought that was interesting. So yeah, he ends up seeing Sylvia in the library, and she's in a rush to take him somewhere now, or else they won't get another opportunity. She snuck into the show. She wasn't supposed to be in it, right? So they sneak off to the beach, and she tells him his whole reality is fake. It's all scripted, and that they're gonna come and get her, so that she has to say this quickly. So next, you see a man that comes racing down the beach in his car to go get her. And she looks at Truman and she goes, they're here. The man gets out of the car, says that she's her dad, and that she's just as schizophrenic and don't bother finding her because they're moving to Fiji. Right. And it's actually pretty fucked up because he's like, she brings all of her boyfriends here. Don't worry. It's not just you. It's
Yes,
not just
I
you.
remember that. It's not just you, man. I mean, don't take it personal.
Yeah. This ain't love. She's just a hoe. That's my daughter. I'm sorry. But
It's just schizophrenic
basically what he
hoe,
said.
man. She forgot the other guy existed. It's your turn now.
Yeah. So and she's like, that's not my dad. I've never seen this guy a day in my life before. But Truman's just befuddled. He doesn't know what to make of it. She very well could be a schizophrenic, but he doesn't think so. But he has to make this decision on the spot and doesn't have enough time to really make any kind of action. So she gets taken away in the car.
But he takes a jump of faith after that moment, dude. That's when he's like, he starts questioning. I mean, I know this is where you're probably going, and he takes that faith of like, man, like, I don't know if what she said was true or not, but it's really damn interesting. And then isn't it kind of after that moment where he kind of starts questioning the reality of everything at that point?
Yeah, that's where it starts to go. It starts to snowball. So Sylvia actually literally represents the spark, right? She's the spark that really helps him start wanting to get out of Sea Haven.
Mm.
And which is perfect. That's exactly what her role is, at least in Gnosticism. It's not meant to pull you out and you do none of the work. It's meant to guide a little spark into your mind and you do the rest of the work to get yourself out of there, right? So Sylvia is the spark that follows him. Like he thinks about her all the time. He's making magazine little pictures out of her, and he's looking up like how to get to Fiji, and are there any flights to Fiji? And she is the driving force in his mind, right? She's the reason that he takes action, and at least at a subconscious level has a need for truth. Because she provided the spark. So she's the driving factor to escape the Matrix. And as I said earlier, Gnostically, Sylvia represents Sophia, the divine wisdom that is helping him to remember. And interestingly enough, her scripted reality name, so in the show, her name is Lauren, right? But her outside of the scripted reality, outside of Sea Haven, her name is Sylvia.
Because she gets to watch on TV like the other consumers. Yes.
Yes, yes. So and she's like a big factor of getting him out of this show. Even before she went there, she was trying to do everything she could because it's wrong to keep somebody trapped in this fake reality, right? Like so she was
Yes,
a huge
because it
advocate
was
to
a
get him out.
baby, like from inception, wasn't like, didn't the story start out like filming from like him in the mother's womb up to pregnancy to up to birth, up to like, oh, he's taking his first steps, his first everything. It's, yeah, dude. Yes.
Everything. And the creator of the show, Christoph, he even says, well, yeah, he was one of 5 babies that could have made this show, but he was born 2 weeks early. So I guess he was really excited to start this movie. And like, so it's just really like ass backwards thinking. But so Sylvia, so yeah, Sylvia represents Sophia. And interestingly enough, her scripted reality name is Lauren, but her real name outside of the Matrix is Sylvia. Lauren, I like going into etymology. I want to know the root word of why words are created, why words have meaning. What did they originally mean whenever they started saying words, right? Because everything stems from it. And so Lauren comes from the root word of laurel, which ironically, again, is another Hollywood reference to Laurel Canyon, if you've ever heard of that.
Or
It's a
Laurel and Hardy, early Hollywood, you know, the comedy duo. Yeah. But go ahead.
Yep,
That made
yep.
me think
So
of that.
exactly. All Hollywood shit. So Laurel Canyon, which is a neighborhood in the Hollywood Hills. But since she breaks the fourth wall and tells him that her name is Sylvia, which stemming from the root word Silva, meaning the forest or the wild, she represents the wild, untamed, unscripted nature that tries to tell Truman the truth of his reality. And so that's pretty interesting that she's the wild that is coming into his life. That's literally what her name means from Silva, right? Um, and I forgot where I was. Sorry about that.
Little
Here we
serpent
go.
and garden kind of action too. Yeah. The
Oh yeah,
truth. Yeah. Yeah.
that's a dude. Exactly. Yes. And depending on which version of that story that you get, there's multiple different versions of the Garden of Eden. Some will say that Sophia actually was the snake in the Garden of
Mm.
Eden.
Well,
Others
girls
get a
can be
little
snakes. No, I'm kidding.
Others get a little weird and they say that it was actually Jesus that was the snake. Who gives a shit? I don't
Whoa.
care. It's just Gnosis that is trying to come get you, right?
That's for another
Um,
episode.
yeah. So just like in ancient cultures, they used to send off their youth, and actually in some cultures they still do this. They send off their youth into the forest for a week or so, and they're supposed to overcome their fears, right? They just tell their kids, like once they turn like 12 or 13, go off in the woods, don't call me, don't come back until you've stayed a week out there. I need you to know that you can survive, and there's something magical that's going to happen. It's almost like a coming of age initiation, right? This
Come
is what
back a
ancient
man. Yeah.
Yes, come back a man. And so they're supposed to go out there and they're supposed to overcome their fears, right? You got all the insects, all the plants that are trying to kill you, all the animals that are trying to kill you, the fucking elements of just being outside are trying to kill you. And so it's meant to overcome those fears. And oftentimes the kids will come back from the wild and are happily screaming at their parents, I found the truth. I am God. And while their parents are usually like, well, it's about damn time you figured it out. Right. And these are old initiation stories, like rites from a young age. So Sylvia represents divine knowledge that is only found by wandering off into the forest, off the beaten path, and coming back with gnosis. She's the divine feminism, or the feminism. She's the divine feminine wisdom who, in Gnostic mythology, descends into matter to awaken trapped souls and guide them toward liberation. That's what Sophia does, right?
Okay.
And that's what she represents to Truman. So next comes a sequence of wild synchronicities. He turns on his radio and hears that they're following his every move. What street he's turning down, he almost hits a woman while driving, etc. This causes him to not go into work because he's starting to trip, right? He's like, I ain't going to fucking work. So he finds that he gets out of his car and he finds that he can stop traffic with his hands and everything. He's like, halt, I am God. I know what I can do, right? And so yeah, he finds he can stop traffic, and it seems to the outside eye that he's having a fucking mental breakdown. But he walks down the road into a building, and he tries to get in to an elevator, only to find that it's a behind the scenes set. Only again to go in confidence to his best friend Marlon. Goes and meets him over at this candy store because Marlon works and he restocks vending machines. That's his job. Right? So he goes to his friend
Which
Marlon.
is not to cut you off, but just a tiny little thing that made me think. I've never thought of that before, but it always was weird. He's a convenience store guy, like vending machines, convenience, quick, easy access. Here's the quick and easy. But yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. Yes. And if you notice, every single time he hangs out with Marlon, Marlon always has a six-pack of beer.
Six-pack of beer. Yep.
Every single time. And he's always labels out, bro, like it's fucking Bud Light or something, right? Because they say that in the beginning of the movie, this might be towards the end of the movie, but they say that every single prop that you see in the movie is for sale.
Product placement, yeah.
Every single thing, right? And so it's just advertising, and so that's why they don't have to run commercials, because it's constant advertising. It's just live feed after live feed. So yeah, he goes and tries to talk to his buddy Marlon. Marlon tries to tell him that there's nowhere he'd rather be than right here. You can't get those kind of sunset views like this anywhere other than Sea Haven, he says. He says, that's the big guy, quite a paintbrush he's got. Which is hilarious that he says this, okay? Seemingly referring to God. That's what he's trying to refer to Truman. That's God with the paintbrush, right?
Yeah.
But if we remember, his boy Marlon is a fucking Archon. And the Archon works for the Demiurge, which is Christoph, who's creating the sky, right? So
painting the image. Yes, go for it. I love this, dude.
The irony of Christoph being the creator, Marlon is actually praising the Demiurge of Truman's reality whenever he says he's got quite the paintbrush, doesn't he? So it's just tiny little things that you can catch on to.
Marlon's close to Merlin, too.
We're going to get to that.
I didn't know if that was on the table, but yeah, I just thought of that.
We're going deep into Merlin, too. It's going to get wild.
Okay, let's go.
So in Gnosticism, this as far as Marlon basically praising the Demiurge and trying to lull Truman back to sleep, it's called the spirit of ignorance. And Marlon, being one of the Demiurge's minions, is one of his archons that makes souls complicit in their own imprisonment. That is all an archon does. It tries to make you comfortable in your own imprisonment. So whenever you always hear, "Oh, I don't need much. I just want to be comfortable," that's the archons spitting that to you. Okay, as far as Gnosticism goes, anyway. So a later scene shows Truman sitting in his car, observing what's happening in his rear view mirror. He notices what is happening is a cycle. A lady on a bike, followed by a man walking with flowers, and finally a Volkswagen Beetle with a dented fender. He tells his wife to get in the car and observe, and the cycle happens again just as he predicted. But she's not listening. She's not interested. He wants her to see that he's noticed that his reality has become scripted, and by convincing her, he can convince himself. But you can't force someone else to awaken until they're ready, if they ever are. And as the saying goes, it's impossible to wake someone up who's pretending to be asleep, which is perfect for this scene, right?
Yeah.
So he then locks her in the car, and he says she's trying to convince him that, look, you want to go to Fiji, honey? We need to save up for a couple of months, then we can go to Fiji. That's fine. So he locks her in the car, and he goes, how about now? And it's like prime Jim Carrey right in this moment, right? So
manic, manic Jim Carrey.
Yes, it's the best. So he locks her in the car and says that they're going to Fiji now, not in a few months. The doors lock and he pulls off out of the driveway. Then you see the license plate, which I feel like most people probably wouldn't notice this, but the license plate says Sea Haven Island at the top, and then at the bottom it says a nice place to live. The license plate numbers read 816 KAZ. So why is that interesting? So
that sounds familiar.
So reducing 816 to one number, with in numerology, you always bring things down to one single digit unless it's 11, 22, or 33. And so if you reduce
That
816, which
be six?
comes down to 6. Yeah.
Six. No shit. Yes.
Which stands for man, actually. It stands for man and it stands for harmony. I don't mean man as in like penis. I mean man as humanity, right?
Yeah.
And then KAZ, which reduces to 11, which is a master number that through a Gnostic lens means that awareness is breaking its containment. Okay? So he's already starting to break his own containment. So his license plate literally reads like man is breaking his containment.
Is
So I
that the
just thought
first
that was
time you see the license plate at that moment?
Yes. It's
Okay,
the only
awesome.
time you see his
Yeah.
license plate.
Okay. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah.
Yep. So long story short, he's trying to drive off out of the town, right? And keeps coming up on obstacle after obstacle. He tries going down one road, right? And it's nothing but traffic. Every car pulls out in front of him. It looks like it's going to be backed up for hours, and it's just craziness. So he decides to back up. He goes around and around and around the circle.
The round around. Yeah. Yes.
Back around it, and then he goes back up the same road, and there's no traffic. And he goes, well, would you look at that? Just a few minutes ago, it was traffic for miles, and we were going to be stuck there for days. Now it's clear. I guess we can go, right? And so just pointing to the nature of his reality as being like, yo, this shit is fake, right?
If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's there, situation. Yeah.
Exactly. So now he's going, and they're driving for a few minutes, and you see a sign that says forest fire ahead, right? And he goes, oh, what are they going to try and do now, right? And so there's this big old line of fire, and she's like, no, we got to stop. And he's like, we're going. And so they go through it. And then next they come upon this contaminated area, and you see a bunch of people out there in like spacesuit looking things like from ET, right? And they're trying to decontaminate, but they have everything all blocked off. And so he gets out of his car and he runs into the woods. He's trying to hightail it. And then that's whenever they tackle him and bring him back home and
tag him and bag him. Yep.
Basically, he's coming up on every single obstacle possible. So only to be caught by the police and brought back home, where he confronts his wife and says that she's in on it. And that's whenever you mentioned the moment before the show.
My favorite scene in the whole movie.
Yeah, she's trying to do an advertisement for some bullshit as like that's her role, right?
Like a coffee thing or whatever, something like
that's
that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and he goes, who are you talking to?
What the hell are you talking to?
Who are you talking to? Which is perfect. So yeah,
he
so
broke
anyhow,
the matrix at that kind of point. You know, it's like all those synchronicities and all those coincidences had lined up to enough to where it's like I said earlier, like one coincidence, two coincidence. Truman's just a regular guy, goes to work, does his 9 to 5, blah blah blah. Oh, that's kind of weird. Anyways, move on, go back to regular schedule, and then after third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 17th, 25th, whatever coincidence, Truman's like, okay, why am I seeing so many coincidences? And he's waking up, you know. So like you're saying,
yeah, exactly. And I guess he starts going after her because he noticed that in every single marriage picture that they've ever had together, she always had her fingers crossed. Right.
Yes.
And that was one thing that he wanted to go and bring up to her. So she always had her fingers crossed, like, yeah, it's a fake marriage. It doesn't count. Right. And so that's basically the symbolism behind that. But so she then starts like threatening him with the dicer, peeler, cutter, knife, fucking, you know, as seen on TV bullshit knife. Right. And he goes, what are you going to do? You're going to slice me, dice me, cut me up, and all this other shit. Right. And she goes, and so he grabs her and she goes, somebody do something. And he turns around, he looks at her, he goes, who's going to help you? Who's somebody? Right. And that's whenever she starts getting scared and she goes, I can't work under these conditions. I'm a professional. And so next you hear the knock at the door and it's his good old buddy Marlon showing up with a 6-pack of beer again. Okay.
Yes. Right on cue.
Marlon, confronts his wife and says that she's in on it. She feels threatened. And again, his buddy Marlon comes to rescue with another 6-pack of beer as they go out and have a chat. Marlon convinces him that if the whole thing is made up, then he's made up too. And how could he question their friendship? So esoterically speaking, Marlon is very close to Merlin, which is very interesting for this situation. Merlin, the wizard, Merlin always showed up as different people, pretending to be different people to teach the initiates lessons along the way, quietly and unnoticeably. He was known as like this shapeshifter, not literally a shapeshifter. I don't think he was literally a shapeshifter. It was just the story,
Like
right?
the idea of if Jesus was to appear as the homeless guy in front of you, kind of thing. Yeah.
Perfect. Yes, yes. Lift up a rock and I am there kind of
Yes. Yes.
situation,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, so yeah, he's always showing up that way. And damn, I had something too that was, oh, that's right. Yeah, yeah. We're going to get a little bit more to Merlin, but hold on. So next we get to hear from Christoph. So interestingly enough, Christoph, if you divide it, it's Christ of, or trying to say like Christ in a sense. And but it's actually the exact opposite. It's the demiurge that is trying to be like Christ. He thinks that he's doing the right thing. He thinks that he's nurturing this guy and that he's protecting this guy and everything, but it's actually almost antichrist almost.
You're taking
right?
his free will away. Yes.
Exactly. So, so we hear from Christoph, known as the show's conceiver and creator, who lives on the 221st floor of the Omnicam Ecosphere. It's up in that moon, right? So it's known as the Omnicam Ecosphere. Literally Truman's god that sees all and hears all from a lunar ecosphere, his demiurge. So then Sylvia calls the show that's interviewing Christoph. This is one of Christoph's first ever interviews with like one of the news stations, right? And so they have these callers that call in, and luckily enough, Sylvia gets through the line and wants to speak to Christoph. She says that he's a liar and a manipulator. He says back to her, do you think that because you batted your eyes at him, flirted with him, and stole a few minutes of the limelight that you're in any position to judge? It's literally the demiurge arguing. It's the if you look at it in Gnostic ways, it's the demiurge that is arguing with wisdom about judgment. Okay, so I thought that was quite interesting. Christoph goes on to say that he can leave at any time. If this was more than just a vague ambition, if he was absolutely determined to discover the truth, there's no way that we could prevent him. And he goes, what I think distresses you, Sylvia, is the fact that Truman prefers his cell.
Ooh.
So then he says that the next week's episode will feature his wife leaving him and a new love interest coming into his life. Her name is Vivian, and you only catch it for a split second, but her name is Vivian.
She was the new hire, wasn't she?
She was the new hire, yeah.
Yeah.
So her name is Vivian, and she's dressed in red, all red, to make sure that his attention is caught, just like the lady in the red dress in the Matrix.
Matrix,
right?
yep.
The first thing that catches your attention is the woman in the red dress. Esoterically speaking, so her name is Vivian, right? But if we were to try and compare it to another story, Vivian would be Viviane, and Viviane is in the Merlin story. Okay, Viviane is known as the Lady of the Lake, and she's also known as a water priestess that is a feminine force that entraps Merlin. Merlin actually initiates Viviane into the world of magic, but she turns around and uses it on him to enclose Merlin into a tree, a cave, a tower, or a crystal prison, depending on which story. Right. So the goal is that Viviane wants to try and seal Merlin outside of time to preserve him without killing him. So she binds him into a tree, a cave, a tower, or a crystal prison. Right. So Viviane binds Merlin because magic becomes hidden. Now, once he's trapped and stuck inside of this tree or wherever, magic becomes hidden in nature, myth, intuition, and dreams. That there's no longer this wizard out there performing any kind of magic, that it exists out in nature. You just have to try and find it. And that
you don't know if it's necessarily truth or not, but yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the teacher literally disappears so that the seekers must find it within themselves. And
Bingo.
That's the story behind Vivian. So I thought that it was interesting that Vivian, who is supposed to be the new love interest of Truman once he leaves Meryl, or once Meryl leaves him, And she's known as like trapping Merlin. So I just want to throw that out there.
At this point, um does the dad come back in the picture, or is he's already gone at this point, correct? Or does he
Yeah.
come back in towards this part of like the third stage of the movie at this point, right? Because
Yep.
it's this like giant gaslight that like Truman is waking up. He doesn't, this is like all of us as conspiracy theorists. We don't know what we're waking up to. Every time we have a question, we get 20 more questions instead of an answer. But Truman is starting to recognize, like, the fires, the hazmat suits, the Volkswagen, the dented Volkswagen, the whatever. Like he's starting to realize, I don't know the answer. Why the hell am I the only one asking these questions? And so
Exactly.
that's the awakening of it all. It doesn't mean you know what's going on. It just means like you look around and most people are in this hypnosis and sleep. And you're like, why do you not see what I'm seeing?
Which is perfect, and actually that's a good segue. I wanted to explain why I'm no longer on the Cult of Conspiracy podcast out there anymore. And it's not. Some people think that me and Jacob got into it or something like that. No, that's still my buddy. I still talk to him just about every day. I still go on the live shows as often as I can. I'm still, basically on the show just as like, every so often I like to go on. And my reason for that is because I'd been doing the Cult of Conspiracy for 5.5 years, but I created Meta Mystics about 2.5 years ago, and I wanted to give all of my attention to Meta. And the main reason was because in my mind, how many conspiracies do you need to see until you decide to take the next step and do something with that knowledge? I don't need any more cracks in the illusion. I was like, all right, yes, there's a crack. All right, there's a crack. There's a crack. There's a crack. 9/11. Okay, I see it, right?
It's all
JFK,
bullshit. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Martin Luther King, all of the fucking, how many conspiracies do you need to crack that firmament in your mind? You don't need all these reminders. I did damn near 1,000 episodes over there. I got 1,000 cracks in the firmament, right?
Hmm.
I felt like, what's the next step, at least for me on my own personal journey? And that was diving into discovering what's the nature of this reality. Do we find it through mysticism? Do we find it through religion? Do we find it through spirituality? Do I find it through just being an agnostic, right? But there has to be some kind of answer. And anybody that's ever done like a psychedelic and had an ego death on a psychedelic, you can't go back. There's no going back. There's no more just like becoming entertained with your day-to-day stuff, because now you have more questions about the nature of this reality. You saw it delete, right? In a psychedelic trip or whatever. Like you saw that this reality ceased to exist. You can't just keep on succumbing to the little cracks that are keeping you more bound into fear. And so I wanted to get out of that fear state. And it's not necessarily that I think that all conspiracies are bad. I think that they are great conduits for people who are awakening. I just personally didn't necessarily need that conduit anymore. It's like, how many synchronicities do you need until eventually you do something about it? And that's where I went with Metamystics. And so this is the type of shit that we do on Metamystics. We do movie breakdowns or book breakdowns or just esoteric wisdom and knowledge breakdowns, whether if it might be getting into the Kabbalah, it might be getting into Eastern mysticism or magic, and all of it. We just want to talk about all of it. So I just wanted to say that's my reason why I'm not in the Cult of Conspiracy anymore. I didn't get pushed out. I didn't rage quit. We're still good. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to give all my love to Meta because that's where my passion is at. That's where it's led me to this point in my life.
Well, there's a fun thing to where it's like, kind of to bring it a tiny bit back to the Truman thing, but like to almost the like recognizing where you recognize like, okay, here's this conspiracy. And then next week there's this conspiracy. And next week it's almost like once you notice it's him watching the fucking cars drive round and round and it's the same simulation over and over. And there's only however many 10 stories or whatever, nothing new under the sun, as Ecclesiastes says, or whatever else. Like you realize it's a synchronistic, retarded cycle that just keeps going in circles. And there's so many that don't notice it, but then there's so many that get outraged by the new thing. You know what I'm saying? Like they get outraged by the new thing, but if you sit back and look at it as the micro versus the macro, then you're like, yeah, but that thing was the same as the other thing the last time and the thing before that. So you start noticing the pattern of it all. And it's like, it's jacking your loosh kind of shit. It's just stealing your energy to keep you in this perpetual retardation of like staying angry at this group or this group or this group instead of everybody coming together. But I'm glad you put it like that because, dude, I've listened to some of the episodes so far without you, and I still like the show, and I'm glad that you're doing your own thing at this point. But that's the cool part. Like we don't know the answers, but we're just willing to grow. You know what I mean? Like we're all willing to keep asking questions and find it all in our own ways and just keep going with it, you know?
I'm not even trying to say that I have all the answers. I just, like you said, for the people that just want to be entertained by the synchronicities and by the conspiracies, go ahead and sit in the car and watch the repeated cycle of the man with the flowers and the Volkswagen Beetle and all. We can always be entertained by that. But I feel like the nature of our reality, the goal of living as a human is not just to be entertained by synchronicities. It's about taking the information that you learned and applying it towards your own personal journey.
It's like a
That's
video
just
game, dude. Like Sam Tripoli says, everything's a fucking video game. Like whether it's Super Mario World or whether it's Pac-Man or whether it's Metal Gear Solid or whatever video game you're into, whatever euphemism you want to use, it's like you're going to start on level 1. I'm a musician. I'm a bass player and a guitar player and a somewhat singer. It's like you're going to start on base level and then eventually you'll be on like level 5 and then maybe level 15 and whatever. But the shit that you can do now, you didn't realize you could do then. And it's all a growing process is what I'm kind of saying. It's like when you start a new video game on level 1, you're like, I don't know what button to push, up, down, what the hell? And then by like level 7 or 8, you're like, oh shit, I'm in my flow. I'm figuring this system out, and it's like that's what we're all supposed to do in conspiracy world. And like I said, I don't mean that like in a negative way to anybody whatsoever. It's all our own personal journey and growing path.
That's it. Yeah. And the cool thing about this, the nature of this reality is that you can ask for like hints. You can ask for proof a little bit. And I got a fun story about that actually. We'll get back to the notes here, but
let's go. Yeah.
So a few years ago, whenever I was still very early in my own personal spiritual awakening, this was back whenever me and Jacob, we used to have our studio in the back of this crystal shop called the Awakenings. It was in Baton Rouge. And obviously it's a crystal shop. So you have a bunch of psychics and tarot readers and, mystics and everything else in there.
Energies. Yeah.
Yes, but the woman that was running the shop, her name is Christy, and I used to just go up to Christy, and I would say, "Man, I want to believe in all this spiritual stuff. I don't know how to prove it. Like how do I prove it?" I was still trying to prove it to everybody else so that I could prove it to myself. Right? It's still on that journey, and that's never what it's about. But I was like, I just wish that I had some proof. And she goes, "Watch. Now that you said that, you're gonna get it." Dude, later that night, I'm getting ready to wrap up with the episode that me and Jacob were doing for the cult, and my wife calls me. And we used to live in a trailer park, white trash all the way, right?
Okay.
And so we're living in this trailer, and it's like me and Jacob, we used to shoot late until like 3 or 4 in the morning. Like,
oh, I know, yeah.
This was back whenever he was still working in the plant. So on the days that he had off, we would try and shoot 3 or 4 episodes in a day. And so we stayed super late. It was like 3 or 4 in the morning. My wife calls me and she goes, "Hey, are you coming home soon?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're just wrapping up." And she goes, "All right, I need you to hurry up and get here because somebody keeps on coming up to the door and banging really loud on the door." And I go and look out of the little peephole. I look out the window and nothing's there. And I'm like, okay, she's just tripping and it's late and she's probably tired. Our son was just a little baby then. So I'm sure that she, hadn't slept in a little while or whatever. So I was like, all right, I'm going to come home. It was only like 10, 15 minutes away from where we lived. So I go back home. And she goes, "Oh my God, thank God you're home." Right. And I was like, ain't nothing out there. I looked all around the trailer. I didn't see anybody. I looked underneath the trailer, like lifted the skirting. There's nothing under there. Right. There's not a soul walking outside. It's 4 o'clock in the fucking morning. Right. And so I go and sit down and, just to get ready for bed and wind down a little bit after a long day of shooting. And I'm sitting on the couch for maybe 5 minutes and I hear bang, 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 bang on the front door. And I'm like, wow. All right. First of all, if that is somebody who bangs at a door at 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning that loud, right?
Hmm.
So now I'm getting pissed. I go in my bedroom and I get my gun. I'm getting ready to go walk
Hell
outside,
yeah.
and I see nobody there. I go and take a walk around the trailer. Nobody there. Nobody's down the street. Nobody's hiding behind any other trailers. Nothing at all, right? So I go back in. I was like, what the fuck is happening? So I go back inside. I was like, all right, well, I don't know. Maybe we're just both tired. I'm trying to like write it off, right?
Hmm.
And get ready to go sit down. 2 minutes later, boom, 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 boom on the back door now. And I'm like,
Mm.
okay, what the fuck is going on? So now I'm like, you know what? I would really love, like, I have every right. I live in Louisiana. You cross on private
Yeah.
property. I can shoot somebody, right? So I take
Hmm.
my gun. I'm getting ready to go back outside, and my wife was like, "Don't shoot anybody." And I was like, all right, well, we just need to call the cops then, because if I see him, I'm shooting him.
Hmm.
And
Like I
so
ain't planning on it, but if they do something stupid, they're getting their ass shot. Yeah.
exactly. So because it's 4 o'clock in the morning, dude,
Yeah.
like don't be scaring my wife. We just had a baby. I don't want you waking up the baby and all this other shit. So we call the cops. The cops get there real quick because there ain't nothing going on that late. And the cops get there like 5 minutes later. And we tell them, like, look, there's been somebody that has been going on banging on our door, and I don't know who it is. I don't know what it could be, right? And the cop he goes and looks around, and he comes back up to me, and he goes, "Are you sure it was human?" And I was like,
The cop
"What?"
said that? What? No
I
way.
was like, "What kind of question is that? Like, what? Are you trying to say it's a dog or
What
something?"
kind of police reports have you gotten in the last 12 hours? You know, yeah.
Exactly, right? And so that was just the weirdest thing. And luckily after the cops came, we never heard any more bangs. The cops never found anybody,
Hmm.
but I just thought that it was really strange that the nature of that conversation happened earlier, that I said I just wanted proof, and then I get fucked with, and then the
Crazy.
police says, "Hey, are you sure it was human?" I was like, it could just be a weird coincidence that he even said that,
Dude,
right?
you had your Truman moment. You
I
had your
did
own
have.
Truman moment. You asked for it and you were kind of revealed. I mean,
Exactly.
he's like finally overcoming. I'm not saying you were overcoming a fear, but he starts overcoming his fears by finally getting his ass on a boat. And it's like, oh, here's exactly what you were feared of. And I'm not saying you were feared, but I'm saying like when you ask, you shall receive, you know? And it's like,
Yeah.
you don't know an answer to it, but you know there's some kind of situation that comes with it sometimes.
Well, it's why they say you shouldn't pray for patience, because God will give you everything that you need to be patient for, right?
100%.
So anyway, I just wanted to relay that
I
story.
love that though. That's awesome. That I mean, that's not awesome that you guys had experienced that, but I'm like, what a weird kind of situation experience. Like I said,
So
100 times,
strange.
conspiracies leave you with more questions than answers. What the hell was that happened that night? I don't know, but I experienced it. But if the other person doesn't experience it, they just hear your story. Sometimes they might not believe it. But you know, it's like Crow 777. I've had him on here. You know, belief is the enemy of knowing. You know, it's like that's
Love
his.
him.
That Crow's the best. But yeah, exactly. Like if you aren't there to experience somebody else's experience, how the hell can you critique it or say it did or didn't happen, you know?
Hey, dude, everybody, that's why an awakening has to happen on a personal level. It's not for the masses, right? Because your experience is your experience. The worst thing that's ever happened to you is the worst thing that's ever happened to you. It might not be the worst thing that's ever happened to any human that has ever existed, but to you, that's all that matters. That's all.
Hmm.
That's all. You know, your spirit or whatever has experienced. So, getting back to it. So now we cut to the scene where Truman is escaping. They try and go find him, and he fools the director so he laid like some kind of prop with a little recording machine of
In
him
the basement.
right in the basement, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, there's nothing to see there, but Christoph is like, I know him, and I know that he ain't sleeping in the basement, and I know that he ain't snoring like that, right? So he's going and trying to find him. He sends out the search party. But what's interesting is the search party gets there and they find that he escapes through the ceiling of his closet. It's another Gnostic allegory. It's breaking through that firmament, right?
Mm.
So he's breaking through this another layer of the firmament, the first layer of the waters beyond the waters, right? So the firmament actually, the word firmament comes from the Hebrew word rakia, which means an expansive structural boundary. He's gone beyond his initial understanding of reality, and he's breaking through his own ways of thinking. Very similar. If you want to get real weird as far as like the etymology of Hebrew words and Greek words and stuff like that, the word repent is very interesting. But you have rakia with the firmament, and it's just breaking through your own structural, the perceived material structural boundaries that you set in your own life. But the word repent is very interesting. It comes from the Greek word metanoia, which means to change your perspective or to change your mind. That is where repent comes from. So whenever somebody says repent, it literally translates from the Greek to change your mind. That's all it means.
Okay, interesting.
Right? So he's almost repenting by breaking through this firmament. He's going beyond the layers of obstruction in his own mind. So they eventually find Truman, and he's sailing in the sea, the same sea that he was terrified of because of his dad dying at the sea. But Truman has broken through the first glass ceiling already, having gone through the ceiling in his closet, literally. The things that used to scare him no longer affect him because, remember, his dad came back, and so that trauma was a false trauma. So now he's no longer scared of it anymore. So the demiurge has to ramp it up a little bit by making the weather stronger. If Truman gets out of this false creation, he will see the demiurge for what he is, and the demiurge will have no power over him anymore. So the weather gets worse and worse. The waves get high, the lightning striking his boat and forces him out of the boat and into the water. The boat gets overturned, and Truman fights through the rage of waters to get back onto the boat again. He's not giving up. It's his sheer willpower that is steering him now. Truman screams out at the demiurge, and he goes, "Is that the best you can do?" Right? He's like, "That's all you got?" Right? You ain't stopping me right now. The demiurge then increases the wind. Whenever I say demiurge, remember it's Christoph. It's just a so the demiurge is increasing the wind. The waves get stronger until a tidal wave comes and knocks him out, capsizing the boat. But then once the demiurge sees that Truman is like basically drowning and knocked out, he turns off the bad weather. Truman regains consciousness, raises his sail, and keeps trucking forward until the tip of his boat pierces the veil, and he's finally vindicated. Proof that his reality is not what everybody expected him to believe. He's not crazy after all. Overcome with every emotion, he looks down the wall and sees a set of stairs. He's completed his journey of initiation and begins to climb. Just before he opens the door, the demiurge comes over the loudspeaker from above and says, Truman, he hears Truman, and Truman says, "Who are you?" Christoph replies with, "I am the creator."
The creator, yes, sir.
Right. Very interesting word choice there. Says that I am the creator. Truman says, "Then who am I?" Christoph says, "You're the star."
Dude, yes.
So Truman says, "Was nothing real?" And Christoph says, "Well, you were real." He goes, "Listen to me. There's no more truth out there than there is in the world that I created for you. The same lies, the same deceit, but in my world, you have nothing to fear. Nobody knows you better than I do. You're afraid. That's why you can't leave. It's okay, Truman. I understand. I've been watching you your whole life." And he reminds him of all of his memories and his first steps and driving a car and all this other shit, right? Which is very symbolic to people seeing their life flash before their eyes right before they die, or maybe they have an NDE. People get these life like rewinds, essentially.
Key pivotal moments. Yep.
And he says, "You can't leave, Truman. You belong here with me." The demiurge is trying to convince him of this, right? So, and then Truman responds with the famous line, "In case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night." And he bows out, and he's walking out of the matrix for good, finally breaking through the outer shell of the firmament and becoming freely liberated once and for all. Because if there's anything that we seek on the journey towards enlightenment, yes, there's knowledge. Knowledge first is what we seek, but ultimately it's liberation, to be free of attachment and suffering. That's what
freedom.
That's what enlightenment is truly all about. So As soon as the transmission cuts off from the show, all the watchers, they resume life, and then they ask, what else is on? Right?
Yeah.
And it's an interesting allegory to say that yes, Truman was a puppet in the show, and he was being controlled by the archons and the demiurge and everything else. But also, all of the watchers are too,
They
because
are the puppets. Yes.
they are the ones that are also under the demiurge's control and under the archon's control in a sense, because they just watched Truman go through this crazy journey about escaping the Matrix. And as soon as he escapes his Matrix, they're like, what else is on? They still want more of the Matrix. They want to feed into the Matrix,
Hmm.
almost as if they're archons themselves. So yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting. So yeah, they ask what else is on, showing that no matter how many different ways you try to wake up somebody, it's up to the individual. You don't wake up the masses. Each individual must go through the awakening process themselves. And actually, I got a fun little thing. My very first time watching it with my wife. My wife is Brazilian, right? So she grew up in Brazil and she moved here whenever she was 16. So she didn't watch all the movies that we watched whenever we
Yeah.
were.
Okay. Cool. Cool.
So I watched it with her for the first time a couple of years ago, and she loved it the entire way. She loved the entire movie until the end, because the end just shows Truman walking through the door, and you don't see nothing else, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't go and find Sylvia. You don't know what happens. It just leaves it up, right? And I just remember sitting there and thinking. She goes, "That's it? He doesn't go and find Sylvia?" And I'm like, I just smiled, dude, and I was like, he didn't find Sylvia. He found Sophia, which that was the entire point, right? He was just trying to find the Sophia to be able to break free and to be liberated. So he became enlightened by walking out of that shell. That's
Hmm.
the story of of Gnosticism,
Yeah.
which is very interesting
Like
because
you said
even
about
Jesus.
Sylvia, because she gave him the knowledge to understand, not even understand anything, but at least question, and the questioning is what got him where he ended up at.
Exactly. So, and even Jesus will say, and I know that there's going to be Christians out there that say that I'm taking this out of context. That's okay. Jesus even said that the kingdom is within you. And are ye
Hmm.
not gods? Right? These are words that Jesus said in the Bible, not even from the heretical quotes. So, and so this was not necessarily me trying to tell anybody that what they believe is wrong or stupid or whatever. It's just that we're all on this journey and we're all trying to find answers. And sometimes a movie comes across every once in a while and just reminds you that, like, all right, you're also on this journey too,
That's
right?
Dude, I love it because it goes to show you that like everybody has something that, you know, we're not all going to be Jesus, or maybe there could be somebody similar, or I don't know. I don't want to tell anybody else's beliefs what is right or wrong. But at the end of the day, if you look at it like the change starts within you, that's the kind of shit that Jesus was teaching. The change starts within you. It turns into a chain reaction. You do better, you wake up, you start noticing, then you can help your friends, whether they want to or not. Then okay, don't waste too much time on that or your energy. Move on to these other people. It's like you said, energy. What was it? You said something earlier about, something about energy flows where something goes,
Where
but
attention goes. Yeah.
yeah, where attention goes. Yeah. And so that's the idea of it all, is like Truman didn't have the answers. He just had the questions. And that's the best part of that whole movie, man. But Jonathan,
Following his intuition.
you're gonna be my new once every couple months or whatever. Like you're gonna like I've been wanting to do movie breakdowns for a long time, and I've been trying to find the right people to do them with. Let's do this again. Like there's so many, like Minority Report is another one I'd love to do a movie breakdown on. I mean, even They Live, some of that stuff. Like there's a lot of movies that we look back, you're like, oh, it's just an old movie. You're like, yeah, it's an old movie that kind of came true. So why don't we go look back into who wrote that? Why did they think that? Why did they think that 40 years ago? And why the hell did it come true 40 years later? So, dude, you came, you saw, you concert, whatever, you conquered. Remind everybody where they can find you. I would love to do this again. Let's do more movie breakdowns.
Absolutely. We can definitely get weird with all of it. And if you're interested in this kind of stuff, we do this kind of stuff all the time over at the Meta Mystics podcast, where myself and my co-host, also my cousin Sean, we kind of just go into these kind of different esoteric modalities and different ways of understanding about the nature of not only our lives but your life in specific. If it's all for the individual, then why not try and crack the code a little bit? And you can do it many different ways. We're never going to run out of things to talk about because as they say that the Tao cannot. So there's this interesting quote in Taoism that basically they call God the Tao, right? And so within Taoism, they say that all is Taoism. And so, but to name Taoism, to name who Taoism is or what Taoism is, it can never be what Taoism is. You'll
It's a
never be able
human
to
made
reach.
thing trying to explain God, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
You're trying to break down what an 11th dimensional thing is from a third dimensional mindset.
Hmm.
And that's what we try to do over at Metamystics, that there are tiny truths within everything. And, we always like to say that we operate from the coexist bumper sticker, that they all have little truths in them. Any religion, any form of spirituality, any cult, any movie, any form of divination, all of it. And, sometimes we get a little weird. Sometimes we get even weirder. So come and check us out. We're also on TikTok and Instagram. It's all at Metamystics or Metamystics Podcast. And yeah, we appreciate, you allowing us to come on here. It's not we today. It's just me. My cousin Sean, he's a little busy today. But yeah, this is what we do all the time, dude. And would love to make it a habit over here, brother.
Dude, I would love it. I would love it. I've been listening to you for years. I love your breakdowns of things. This was really awesome. You kind of just sprung this idea. Like we were supposed to record next weekend and it worked out. It was like, thank God, because I'm on call at my job. So it's like, well, I don't want to fucking get a phone call 15 minutes in and then have to cancel an episode or whatever. So it worked out better. But when you sprung this subject on me, I was like, dude, let's fucking go. So, anyways, man. Guys, Stitt-Heads, this was a fucking epic one. We're gonna do this again. Jonathan, we're gonna do some movie breakdowns eventually. We're gonna put this on the
Yeah.
calendar. But man, Stitt-Heads, thank you guys for tuning in. This was really fun. I enjoyed the hell out of this episode. Go check out his show, Metamystics. Go check out his previous episodes while he was still with Cult of Conspiracy. I mean, that's how I found you in the first place, dude. So I'm still gonna promote it. Numbers is numbers.
Oh
But
yeah.
guys, Stitt-Heads, I'll see you next time. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to put the ass in classy, and I'll see